Hello everyone, my name is Rachel. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here to talk about my September reading plans, or TBR. I am of course very excited about all of these books that I'm going to be talking about today, so let's just jump right into it. First we'll talk about the books that I don't have physical copies of, and then we will get into this little stack that I have next to me. Something that I'm excited about is that I think I'm back in the mood to read historical romance. I have not been in the mood to read one since like May or June. It's been a couple of months, which is kind of weird because I feel like my love for historical romance has kind of built my channel into what it is today. But yeah, you know, I've definitely become more of a mood reader and I just haven't been really in the mood to read historicals. So I feel like in September, I'm gonna get back in the mood and I'm very excited about it. So let's just get into this list. First up, we have For Real by Alexis Hall. So this book has been on my TBR for quite a few months. I have had the audiobook sitting in my Audible library, but I was recently on some kind of live show with Jen from the Book Refuge, and I remember her saying that this is like her top favorite BDSM romance, if not one of her top favorite BDSM romances, and I was like, sold. All I do know about this one is that it is an age gap between someone who's almost like 40 years old and a 19-year-old, but what's interesting is that the older hero is the submissive and the younger hero is the dominant. I have never read an MM romance that has BDSM where that is the case, so I'm very intrigued. I have read one book by Alexis Hall before, but that was A Lady for a Duke, which is a very different book and vibe, but I did really love that story, so I'm very excited to get into this in September. Next up, we have a historical romance. This is The Perfect Crimes of Marion Hayes by Kat Sebastian. So I'm very excited to go into this one, but I'm also kind of wary and hesitant because I did try reading The Principles of Kit Webb, which is the book in this series that came before this one, and I DNF'd it like very early on in the book. I read the first few pages and I just wasn't feeling it for some reason, so I put the book down. So I'm hoping that this book will be a much better experience and that I won't DNF it, but I'm very excited about this book because we have two bisexual main characters. We have our heroine who is a duchess who has murdered her husband in self-defense as far as I know, and I can't quite remember how the hero comes into her life, but I'm very intrigued for sure. So next up we have Thank You for Listening by Julia Whelan. I have absolutely no clue what this is about, but I don't need to know. So Julia Whelan is a very well-known audiobook narrator. She's probably one of the best audiobook narrators out there, in my opinion. She narrates a bunch of different like traditionally published books from all kinds of different genres. I'm sure you guys have listened to an audiobook that she has narrated if you are an active audiobook listener. And so I'm just very intrigued because this is the first book that she has written herself. And I am assuming this is a romance of some kind, or maybe women's fiction, just judging off of the cover. And I'm assuming that it has to do with audiobooks somehow. But for some reason, I just want to go into this completely blind, and I'm really excited to listen to the audiobook because, of course, Julia Whelan is going to narrate it herself. So I'm just very intrigued. Next up, we have The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Mandana. I hope that I am pronouncing the author's name correctly. So I heard about this book from Robin from Paperbacks and Planners. Isn't that her channel name? I gotta make sure. Yes, Paperbacks and Planners. She was recently featured on Bree's channel from In Love and Words. Bree has started doing this series where she interviews romance readers as if they're romance authors, like just asking them really probing questions about why they love reading romance and who they are as people and all of that. And so this video featuring Robin is the first in that video series. And so when asked what she was currently reading, Robin talked about this book and she compared it to The House in the Cerulean Sea. And she was talking about how it's a paranormal witchy romance, and I'm sold. I don't need to know anything else about this book. I also really like this cover and I'm just feeling the vibe. Oh my God. So I put holds on both the audiobook and the ebook from my Libby app, and I'm hoping that those holds will come in by the end of the month. But if I have to roll this over into October, that is completely fine as well. Next up, we have Beautifully Broken Control by Catherine Cowles. This is book 4 in her Sutter Lake series. I read books 2 and 3 of this series earlier in August, and I really enjoyed both of them, especially Beautifully Broken Life. I almost gave that book 5 stars, and everyone that I've talked to about this series says that this is their favorite book of the series. So very, very excited. I have absolutely no clue what this is about, but I don't really need to know. I have been really enjoying Catherine Cowles' books because they're just like the perfect small town romances. And I just love the vibe of Sutter Lake itself. It just sounds like a very beautiful place. So I have a random historical romance novella on here. That is My Lady's Lover by Nicola Davidson. This is book 1 in her Surrey Sexual Freedom Society series. I've just accumulated pretty much all of the novellas in this series, and the plots sound absolutely fantastic. So I thought I would just start with book 1. But this is a sapphic historical romance, which I haven't found too many of those. But this is between a countess and I believe her maid or her housekeeper. And I believe one of the characters is stuck in a bad marriage. I would assume the countess, but yeah, this just sounds really great. I've heard pretty good things about this novella. Next up, we have Blindsided. This is by Amy Dawes. This book has been on my Kindle Unlimited for quite a few months. All I know is that the heroine is a virgin and she's just about like 30 years old, and there's sex lessons going on. By the way, shameless plug, I recently did a video where I gave recommendations for romance novels that feature lessons in seduction or sex lessons, so I will definitely have that linked up in the cards above if you are interested. So this is one of my favorite tropes of all time, and this is one that I know a lot of people love. So very excited about that. And as you can probably kind of tell by the cover, this is a sports romance. So yeah, sounds really good. Next up, we have Eyes on Me by Sarah Kate. This is book 2 in her Salacious Players Club series. Yes. I read Praise a couple months back, really enjoyed it, but I didn't love it as much as a lot of other people do. But Jen told me that she thinks I'll love this book more than Praise, so I really hope that I do. As far as I know, this is a step-sibling romance, so I am here for all of that forbidden angst. Next up, we have Haven. This is by Claire Kent, I believe is the author. This is book 1 in a post-apocalyptic dark romance series. I don't know much more than that. This is another book that Jen talked about in a live show that we did recently. I feel like it was one of those romance takeover readathon reading sprints that we did. And yeah, I remember her talking about this whole series and I was just like sold. Because when Jen tells you about a book, like, you can't help but want to read it, basically. So yeah, and this one is more of a novella. I think it's just about 160 pages. So even though there is no audiobook, I'm still very excited to go into it because it is a shorter book. Next up, we have Mafia Darling by Mila Fanelli. I recently read Mafia Mistress, which is book 1 in this duet, and I had such a fun time. That is such a messy, angsty, sexy mafia romance. I'm very excited going into the second book because of course book 1 ended in a crazy cliffhanger. Of course our couple broke up and then something insane happened. So like I need to know what happens next. And this is another audiobook that the hold is coming in very soon for my library, so I'm very, very excited. This is one of those books and series that I feel like you just need to go in suspending your disbelief, I think, and just go with the flow and have fun with it. Yeah, like it's just a crazy over-the-top mafia romance, but I had a really fun time with book 1, so very excited about book 2 for sure. Then we have Little Slice of Hell by Cleo Evans. This is book 1 in a novella series that is their monster romances. This one is an MM romance. And I believe it centers around this cafe, like this matchmaking cafe, something like that. The plot sounded really good. These are pretty short novellas. This one's just about 70 pages. I know I can easily read this in one sitting. So I think now I will get into this stack of books next to me so that I'll get through all of the books and then I'll talk about the manga and comics that I want to read in September as well. So first of all, we have some new historical romance releases that I am finally excited about reading. The first one is Nobody's Princess by Erica Ridley. Let's talk about this cover because I'm obsessed with it. It's pink. There's beautiful people on the cover. Oh my God. I loved the previous book in this series so much. That's Perks of Loving a Wallflower. This is the Wild Winchester series. So now we are getting Graham's story, and I really don't want to know anything about the plot of this. I want to go in completely blind. I have a feeling that I'm gonna really enjoy it. Yeah, Graham is like an acrobat. He's got other skills as well, but that's what I vividly remember from the previous book. So like, yes, like let's get into it. And then I have Up All Night with a Good Duke by Amy Rose Bennett. This one sounds really fantastic because we have Artemis, who is a finishing school teacher by day and a gothic romance writer by night. So then we have Dominic, our hero. He is a reclusive widowed duke, and he desperately needs a wife to provide him with an heir. And he also needs someone to help him manage his Spitfire adolescent daughter. That sounds perfect to me. Like, I have a feeling I'm gonna absolutely love this book. And I love that she writes gothic romance. Like, wow, that just sounds so good. We have another historical romance here. This is Always Be My Duchess by Amelie Howard. This one has to do with Lysander. He is a duke. And then we have Genevieve, who is a ballerina. I believe this is very much inspired by Pretty Woman. I mean, you can kind of tell by the pose on the cover, but I love that she's a ballerina. I think that's so freaking cool, and I've heard pretty good things about this one. I have enjoyed Amelie Howard's books in the past, so I think I'm really gonna enjoy this one. Next up, we have The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. This is Ashley Poston's first adult book, first adult romance. I have read and enjoyed her YA books, but this sounds so interesting, and I've been hearing nothing but amazing things from my friends that have read this. This is about Florence, who is a ghostwriter for one of the most prolific romance authors in the industry, but she has a problem. After a terrible breakup, she no longer believes in love, but her new editor is pushing for her to submit a manuscript in like the next month or something. And then I think said editor gets into a car accident and dies, and now his ghost is like haunting her, but it's a romance. Like, what is this? I don't know, but it sounds great. I love the cover. I'm very intrigued and excited. Then we have, oh my God, y'all, I am finally reading Always Practice Safe Hex by Juliet Cross in September. It is happening because the audiobook is dropping on September 20th. And let me tell you, on September 20th, I'm going to drop everything that I am doing, and I'm going to read this book in like one sitting, I'm sure. I am so pumped to finally read this. This is going to be Livy and Gareth's story. This is Juliet Cross's Stay a Spell series, which is like my favorite paranormal romance series ever. I'm pretty sure I can say that. Like, it truly is just amazing, and every book somehow gets better and better. I don't know how Juliet does it. But yeah, Gareth is a Grimm, and we don't really know anything about those creatures, so I'm very intrigued about that. And I've heard that Gareth can get it any day of the week, so like, let's go. Let's get into it. And then finally, for books that I have physically, I have A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J Maas. This is the book that we are reading in September for the SJM Along, which is a Sarah J Maas read-along that Jen from the Book Refuge organized. So the live show for this one is going to be, I believe, October 1st at either like 7 or 7:30 p.m. Central Time. I will put that information here of the exact date and time, and I believe this is going to be on Sam's channel from Sam Reads a Little, so I will link her channel down below as well. But if you don't know, this is the third book in the Court of Thorns and Roses series, so this is the end of the first trilogy of the series. Very much looking forward to rereading this sort of finale, well, at least like the finale of this storyline of the series. All right, so let's quickly go through the manga and comics that I also want to read in September. With manga and comics, you know, I can blow through a volume in like an hour. So there's quite a few on this list, and I'm sure I'm going to be very mood ready when it comes to manga and comics that I read in September. So I probably will read a lot more than just what's on this list, but I definitely need to read volume 1 of Saga. This has been sitting on my Kindle Unlimited for months. So if you have Kindle Unlimited, I'm pretty sure all the volumes are available through that. and I read comics and manga on my iPad. I have tried reading graphic novels on my Kindle and it just doesn't work. Like, that's just not what the Kindle is for. So yeah, luckily I have an iPad. I've just heard nothing but amazing things about this series. And this series has also been on hiatus for like over a year, I think, but volume 10 is finally coming out at some point this fall. I don't remember the exact date, but that's just really exciting that this series is actually coming back. This is a science fiction series that also has a romance. I've heard that there's just something for everyone. So very, very excited to finally start this. Next up, we have Spy Family Volume 3. I read the first 2 volumes in August, and this series has stolen my heart. And it's truly getting better and better with each volume. So I have a feeling that I'm gonna absolutely adore Volume 3. If you don't know what this series is about, this is like a fake slash found family story. We have Twilight, who's a spy, and for his mission, he needs to have this fake family. And so he adopts this little girl, Anya, who happens to be a telepath. And then he ends up having a marriage of convenience with this woman, Yor, who happens to be an assassin. And they're all keeping these secrets from each other. Of course, Anya knows that her parents are a spy and assassin, because she can read their minds, but they don't know who each other's occupation is. And then they, of course, don't know that Anya is a telepath. So it's so adorable, so funny, so wholesome. Highly, highly, highly recommend it. Next up, we have Yonah of the Dawn Volume 2. So I read Volume 1 pretty recently, and this is a beautiful manga series. It is a historical, I would say light fantasy romance manga. It's also definitely YA, because the main characters are teenagers, and that's just the vibe that I get. But the main plot is that we have Yonah, who's a princess, and we have Hawk, who is her bodyguard. So there's going to be a very, very, very slow burn romance between the two of them for sure. We're already seeing inklings of that, but they are forced to flee Yonah's family's palace when there is a coup and her father gets murdered. And so that's pretty much where Volume 1 left off. But the artwork of this is absolutely beautiful and stunning. And there's 36 volumes out right now, so I have plenty of content to read. So I'm very, very excited to get into Volume 2 for sure. Next up, we have Paper Girls Volume 1. This is a comic series that has been adapted into a TV series on Amazon Prime. So I'm excited to read through this series. I don't think there's too many volumes of this. I think there's like 6 volumes total. So if I end up liking Volume 1, I could read the whole series pretty quickly and then just go ahead and watch the adaptation. We will have to see. I don't know if this is going to be for me though, because I've heard that this is a very confusing series until pretty much the last volume when everything is explained. And I don't know if I'm going to have the patience to read all of that confusing content basically, but we will see. It has vibes of Stranger Things for sure. Then we have An Incurable Case of Love. This is a pretty short manga series that I've been working my way through. I've already read volumes 1 and 2, have really enjoyed both of them. I already have Volume 3 borrowed from my library, so I'm probably gonna read that within the next couple of days or so. But this is only a 7-volume series, so that's very, very short in terms of manga series. And this is about our 2 main characters. We have a doctor and we have a nurse. And our heroine basically went into medicine because she met the doctor some years before, and she was just so inspired to see him help this old lady that had collapsed on the street. And so she decided to go into medicine because of that. But this definitely has a grumpy sunshine dynamic. The doctor is very, very grumpy. They call him the Dark Lord. And I think that is an homage to Voldemort, if I'm not mistaken. And then the heroine, they call her the Valiant One because she puts up with the Dark Lord. Very cute, funny, but of course there's some serious moments as well, and there are inklings of romance. And I've heard that Volume 3, we finally get to see their romance like actually start to develop, so very excited for that. But I think I could probably finish this whole series by the end of September because I only have like 4 volumes left, so that's exciting. Then we have Cherry Magic. This is a very long title. It's something like 30 years of virginity made me into a wizard or something. It's over here, but it's a very long title. But basically our main character, when he turns 30, he now has the ability to read someone's mind when he touches them in any way. And so this is an office romance. And so he actually bumps into one of his coworkers who happens to have a very big crush on our main character, and so he's reading his co-worker's mind, and this guy is just like already in love with him and kind of obsessed with him, but not in a creepy way, like really adorable. I loved volume 1 so much. I think I almost gave it 5 stars. I already have volume 2 on my Libby app. Very excited to get to it. Yeah, this is just a really great office romance manga. Definitely recommend it for sure. Last but certainly not least, I have Yakuza Lover, volume 1. I already have this one borrowed on my Libby app, so I might even read this technically before September, but I wanted to quickly mention it in this video. But this is a Yakuza or a Mafia dark romance manga series. There's 5 volumes out right now. I kind of want to binge all 5 of them. We will just have to see though if I'm liking the vibe. It seems like it's gonna be very messy, lots of drama, but it is an adult romance. I think most of these manga series that I mentioned here are adult romances, like Incurable Case of Love, Cherry Magic, and then yeah, Yakuza Lover, like I said, is an adult romance. So I'm very excited. I think this will just be very entertaining and a fun time. So that is going to be it for my September reading plan. So excited about all of these books that I talked about in this video. I would love it if you would leave a comment down below if you want to tell me about books that you're planning on reading in September, or if you want to discuss any of the books that I brought up in this video. I would also love it if you would leave a like and subscribe, and I thank you so much in advance if you do. And with all that being said, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!